allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
March 22nd, 2017. Trustee Costa?
Present.
Trustee Capito?
Present.
Trustee Rogers?
Present.
Trustee Sweet?
Present.
Trustee Knightley-Tracy?
Present.
Trustee Berrier?
Present.
Mayor Yurkovich?
Present. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Okay. Approval of minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of March 8th, 2017 Village Board meeting?
So moved.
Trustee Costa?
I'll second.
Trustee Suisse? Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Or no. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve the accounts payable for the period of February 24th, 2017 through March 23rd, 2017?
I so move.
Trustee Suisse?
Second.
Trustee Caprio? Discussion? Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee Capito?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet?
Aye.
Trustee Knightley-Tracy?
Aye.
Trustee Berrier?
Aye.
Next is reports and communications from the mayor and other officers. I'll go first. It's Homer Township and Northwest Homer Fire Protection Districts have partnered to provide free CPR training to anyone who wants to learn this potentially life-saving skill. The fire districts believe that this is such an essential skill, they are offering the class 4 times this year at no cost to the participant. If you would like to be trained in CPR, please go to www.homerfire.org to register. As for the State of the Village address, we would like to thank the Homer Township Chamber of Commerce for putting together the State of the Village address. It was a wonderful event. If you weren't able to attend, the event can be viewed on the village's website at www.homerglenil.org. And April 4th is election day, so please go out and vote. That's it. Go over to Trustee Berrier.
No report this evening, Mayor.
No report.
Okay. Trustee Costa.
Very brief, Mayor, just very brief. About a month ago, Will County Sheriff actually had a report on some phone scams that have been going around. I just want to remind everybody, there's 2 that are going on. Actually, in the past month, I've gotten 3 calls about the IRS and 1 on Can You Hear Me? If you get a call and the first thing to say is Can You Hear Me? It's very hard not to say yes. But be aware of that. What they do is they record your yes, and they can use that for purchases or whatever they're scamming other people for, so please be careful. I got 3 of them from the IRS in the past month, 1 from New York, 1 from Rhode Island, and the last one was from Idaho. And basically they call and they say that the IRS has contacted them or contracted them to go after me that for taxes. And they said I owe $592 from 2009 to 2015 taxes. And a warrant sworn out for my arrest. I could lose my driver's license, go to jail. And when I said, well, who are you looking for? What is it? And they asked me, what is your name? I said, well, you call me, you know what it is. Then they hang up. It's a scam. The IRS does not call you to a collection agency to collect taxes. If you get a call like that, hang up, do not give them any information whatsoever. The last 2 calls I got, the one from Idaho and the one from Rhode Island, I let it go to voicemail first. Then they actually left the callback number and I called them back and they answered. The one from New York wasn't, when I tried calling back, it was a disconnected number. But be careful, don't give any information on the phone, please. It's a scam. I believe you can contact Will County Sheriff if you get the calls, correct, Deputy?
Yes.
Call Will County Sheriff. I don't know what can be done, if anything, but tell your neighbors, don't fall for the scam. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Costa. Trustee Rogers.
I have nothing to do.
Weiss.
Thank you, Mayor. Reporting for the Environment Committee. As a reminder, the first stargazing event for 2017 will take place on Friday, April 28th at the Trantina Farm. The next item is the village is seeking exhibitors, sponsors, and volunteers for Earth Day Arbor Day, which will take place on May 20th from 11 a.m. to until 4 on the historic Bonos Farm. In 2016, the one-day event featured more than 60 exhibits and fun activities for people of all ages. Plans are underway to make this year an even better one. To complement the spirit of the event, individuals, organizations, and educators who use natural or recycled materials in their work are being invited to share their ideas. And due to the elections being held on April 4th, our next Environment Committee meeting will be on April 11th. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Weiss. Trustee Gabriel.
Yes, Mayor. Reporting on behalf of the Parade and Festival Committee, our fest is scheduled for this summer, Thursday, June 22nd through Sunday, June 25th. Please remember that we will be out there. We're always looking for volunteers. We have Special Needs Day still scheduled for Friday for any homeowner residents who have children with special needs. So please look out for details for that coming forward. The bands have been scheduled, and I don't know if it's something I can release, but I would like to say that the fire chief advised us last night at the meeting that the fire district will not be charging us going forward for their participation at our festival. So it was a nice message from Chris Location, Sergeant Fire Chief, and we thank him for his generosity and his consideration. That's all I have to report.
Thank you, Trustee Gabriel. Mr. Treasurer?
Yes, Mayor, I have the Treasurer's Report of Cash and Investments at February 28, 2017. It's the 10th month of fiscal 17. It shows the general fund with a balance of $5,300,404.49. The special event fund had a balance of $62,583. The environment fund had a balance of $76,503.92. The motor fuel tax fund had a cash and investment balance of $3,612,087.99. The Park and Rec Fund had a balance of $2,815,351.87. The Debt Service Fund had a balance of $1,550,040.81. The Capital Project Fund had a balance of $1,024,731.46. The EAB Tree Replacement Fund had a balance of $421,834.46. And the last fund, the Bond Fund, had a balance of $14,884,060.56 for a grand total, all funds, $29,747,598.56. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, John. Any questions?
Village Clerk?
Yes, so I need to touch on a couple things. I don't know if it's related to the IRS scam or not, and it's this time of year, but I've gotten 3 phone calls this week from Google Business, which is also a recording. And so I Googled it, and it says if they call you and it's a recording, it's not them. So I own a business, so I think that's why I was getting the calls. But anyway, I just wanted to touch on that. And then touching on the Homer Fest, we're looking for sponsorships. They can contact the clerk's office. And then starting this year, probably about a month before the fest, the village will be taking over selling the mega passes. You used to be able to buy it at the Township Highway Department, and this year it will be taking place at the village. And that concludes it.
Thank you very much. Village Clerk?
No, that was me.
Yeah, that's right. Village Attorney?
No report, Your Honor. Thank you.
Public Safety Officials?
No report.
Village Manager?
Just a quick update. Next Thursday, March 30th, there's going to be a neighborhood meeting for a proposed PUD for the Bankston's Pumpkin Farm. That's a informational meeting held prior to a public hearing that will be held in early April. 7 p.m.
Next is public comment. keep it to 3 minutes, we would appreciate it. First speaker is Mark Stinson.
That's actually me. I thought I was signing in for what our item on the agenda came up, so
Okay.
apologies.
All right, that's fine. Second, George Kansas. Here. Did you want to say something? You want to talk about the,
No, I wanted to talk about, it's number 3 on the agenda.
Okay.
Do you want me to wait till the agenda's called, or do you want me
yeah, we'll wait till that comes up.
to wait?
For third. Okay, and Holmes.
Hi, I'm speaking as a resident of the village. This next Monday night, the 27th at 6:30 p.m., I'm holding a candidate forum here in the Village Hall. It's going to be for all the candidates that are on the ballot on the April 4th election. This will not include school board candidates because they're having their own on Wednesday at the school over on Bell Road. So this will feature the township candidates, the village trustees, and the fire district trustees. It'll be a 30-minute meet and greet, and then each candidate will have a 5-minute presentation, and then there will be a question and answer session from the audience. So I hope to see everybody there. If you have any questions, you can email me at annholtz, ANNEHOLTZ, at comcast.net. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Okay. Number 1A, special uses to RDK Ventures, DBA Circle K. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 17008, an ordinance approving special uses to permit an automobile service station, a mini mart associated with a gas station, a car wash, and a sale of packaged liquor, attachment 2, table 2A, permitted in special uses in non-residential zoning districts, Chapter 220 zoning in the Sealand Local Business District for certain real property located at 12819 West 143rd Street, Homer, Glen, Illinois, RBK Ventures, DBA Circle K, case number HG1634S. So, Trustee Costa,
I'll second.
Trustee Trichy. Discussion?
Just a correction for the minutes, I think you said C1 and C2.
Yes. It's C2.
Mayor, I have a question. Is there a representative here? Can I ask you a question about, all the other gas stations in the village have a G license, and you have currently a G license, and now you're switching over to a D, which includes hard liquor. Is there, have you been getting a lot of calls for that, or is there a need?
So typically, yes, we want to sell what the people want to buy, and that's what we feel is most representative of that.
I was just curious about.
Okay. Any other questions? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
So wait, I'm sorry, I just need some clarification. There's just one motion because
Well, there's another motion there, because then if we approve this one, then we have to increase the D licenses.
This is simply right away.
I would concur with Sharon. I'm not really seeing the justification for giving hard liquor sales at a gas station. All of the other ones have been, so I'm not really sure doing that. I mean, I'm fine with the gas station as a whole. I'm not comfortable with them being the only gas station in town with the G as opposed to the others that all have the D.
If you guys don't feel comfortable with the D license, you would, and would want to assign them a different class of license, you would still have to approve a special use permit for the sale of liquor.
I'm fine with the G. I'm just not comfortable with the D or with the hard liquor. I don't see the justification to do that. And then we have all 6 other gas stations that are then going to come and ask for hard liquor sales as well to be competitive.
So this, for this particular, piggyback on what Karen was saying, so this, the motion that's in front of you right now is simply for the land use. The next item that's going to be in front of you relating to this property would be, we want to create a new liquor, a new D license. So that would be something that you can express a concern there as well. And then, if that's approved, that would be the, item C is awarding that to the gas station.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. We're going to take a vote after each one. I voted.
Each one individually, correct.
All right. So, is there any other discussion on that?
Maybe we just have Karen explain why the need for this. We're losing one gas station.
Correct.
To the
So,
residents.
Ginny Patch has been working with RDK Ventures and Circle K about relocating within the village for several years as the Redwood taking for intersection improvements at 143rd and Bell will be taking the gas tanks at the current Shell station. Circle K has decided to purchase the lease for the Sicko station. So until the construction project starts, they will be operating both gas stations. And then once the tanks are taken, the Circle K on the north side of the road will close and they will remain open on the south side of the road at the current Sicko station.
If I could just add for informational purposes, the Will County Circle K convenience store on 133rd and Wilcox Road sells full package liquor. They have a B license.
That's a mini mart.
Right, and I just wanted for information so everybody's aware.
So the way the motion is written, the sale of packaged liquor, so it means the sale of packaged liquor, we're not approving a certain classification with this. It's generic.
Correct, but I think you had mentioned something about the other one being a mini mart. I believe this one is for a mini mart as well.
Inside the gas station. It's a gas station.
Correct. It's just associated with the gas station.
Right.
The packaged liquor is just how it's worded in the special use chart.
Okay. Any other questions? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet?
Aye.
Trustee Burant?
Aye.
Trustee Knight Turkey?
Aye.
Motion carries. For the 1B, increasing the number of Class D liquor licenses. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 17-009, an ordinance amending 83-68 of the Homer Glen Code, increasing the number of Class D liquor licenses issued within the village of Homer Glen? It is understood that the number of Class D licenses package store will increase by one.
So moved.
Trustee Costa and Caprio. Discussion?
Upset, please.
I guess my only comment would be, what I view this to be is a decision that if we allow it here, I think we can expect the other gas stations in town to want to sell hard liquor, right? So I think that's the decision before us is assume if we approve this as the first gas station,
You got to keep approving it.
yeah, that's going to be the request going forward. So I think for me, that's the decision tonight. I don't know that we want to open that box, but it seems to have worked for our current gas stations as packaged liquor without the hard liquor behind the counter sort of thing. I'd be comfortable making it a G. With the rest of the gas stations in town.
Yeah, and yeah, just to piggyback on that, reiterate what I said earlier, is if, in order to be competitive, the rest of the gas stations are going to come to us to get the G. Because if that's what they're looking for, the D, I'm sorry. They will come to us looking for the D. And, you know, in all fairness, that would be something that they could come and ask for. Because they have to be competitive with the one that we're getting.
Correct. Anyone else?
Your Honor, can we amend the motion then, so they don't come back before us?
Okay, well, that's what I was going to suggest right now. If you want to stick with the G license and not switch it to the D, we have to amend that motion. Second, want to give up? And we, because it was Carl and Mike that Mike made the motion.
Yeah, and I just want to chime in, and I personally don't have a problem with the license that they're asking for. We have a number of liquor stores in town that sell packaged liquor. In the gas station, getting gas, and you pick up some on the way home. I mean, it's just the way things are going right now. So I really don't have a problem, and I still understand that other gas stations may come up. But we have to remember too that in the past 15 years, all the gas stations could have come up already and they haven't asked for it, so, you know, I don't know if that's just their policy is to sell beer. And Circle K is looking to sell for full service, you know, the package liquor. So personally, I don't have an issue with the license they're asking for. That's my opinion.
Can I just address we have not received any requests from any of the other gas stations to upgrade to a D, including the other two Circle K. I mean, I know they're gonna close the one, but the one on 59th has not requested to upgrade to a D.
I also do not have an issue with the request, and I don't see that many more gas stations coming into town. Maybe there are, but if the 6 or 7 that we have come forward, we have Kenwood Liquors, there's a few liquor stores on 143rd, or a liquor store.
All right, so we're going to keep the motion as it stands with D license, and we'll vote on that. Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
No.
Trustee Suisse?
No.
Trustee Varian?
Aye.
Trustee Knight-Petricki?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 17-010, an ordinance assigning the available Class D liquor license package store to RDK Ventures DBA Circle K, located at 12819 West 143rd Street, Homer, Glen, Illinois? Need a motion?
So moved.
Trustee Caprio. Second. Trustee Costa. Discussion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
No.
Trustee Varian?
Aye.
Trustee Knight-Petricki?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Suisse?
No.
Motion carries. You've got the license. Number 2, ordinance number 17-011. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 17-011, an ordinance granting approval of a variance to permit a structural use in connection with a commercial stable to be located 250 feet from any zone residential district in lieu of the required 350 feet for the structure used in connection with the commercial stable to be 0 feet from a property line of an owner in lieu of the required 100 feet in the A1 agricultural district, chapter 220-502B3 of the Code of the Village of Homer, Glen for certain real property located at 13728 South Bell Road, Homer, Glen, Illinois. Need a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Trustee Trujillo and Trustee Suisse. Discussion.
I have questions. Is the petitioner cut?
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Esperanza Ramsler on behalf of the petitioner.
Okay, I know we do have, from the map here, we do have about 350 feet. It's not to the property line of the residential area, but it is to their house, so that makes me feel okay about that. How large is that small barn that has been there? It's previously existed, and it backs up with almost zero property line to a, I believe it's a ComEd easement, it looks like. How big is that barn?
I
mean, not size-wise, but I mean, how many stalls, or, I mean, I was just kind of curious.
34.
In there?
But it's really...
In the small barn?
Yes. It's really currently being used just for storage or hay.
But there could be the possibility of that.
There could be.
opening up.
That's how it was used for decades, actually. So, originally, they did not, they were not part of Homer Glen. They were unincorporated there. So we're just doing the formalities, since the previous owners were grandfathered in. So we're just formally just doing everything with Homer Glen, so that everything is in the books as we applied for it, we received it, but it's historically been used that way.
Now it says it's a commercial. You're going to have a commercial stable, or is it still family?
It's still family, but since, for example, if the horse is not registered to the owner, it could be the owner's daughter, it's still considered commercial. So we just wanted to make sure that we did everything correctly so that we don't have issues with the town.
Any other questions?
Just one. So prior to this, back in December when you came for the original zoning or variance on this, I believe it was asked if you were going to use this for commercial stables, and the answer was no.
So at that time, when it was originally filed, the filing originally included this as well because it was a package deal that was purchased. But at that time, the mailing had already been sent without this information, so we had a choice of not proceeding with the commercial application or holding off with it. We decided to go forward afterwards just because we don't want to have any issues. If for some reason something is being done in the other barn and we put a horse there, we don't want someone knocking on the door saying, hey, you said you weren't going to use it, but you can go now, there's nothing there. We just want to have everything out in the open. This is what we applied for, this is what we did. If we don't use it, we don't use it. If we use it, then no harm done.
Just to clarify, when I noticed for her special use permit for the commercial stable, I didn't realize that the stable, this particular barn, was too close to the property line and too close to a residential zoning district. So I offered her the choice of either postponing the public hearing date, or she provided me with a letter saying that she would come back to the board for the variance necessary in order to use that barn as a stable. So that's what she decided to do instead of postponing the whole thing.
And that is part of the record from that meeting.
Okay, so I'm just looking at our records here and documents that say that back 3 months ago, when you given the permit, that you received approval of a special use permit for a commercial stable on December 14th on the condition that any future stable must comply with the 350-foot setback. So they are compliant with the 350?
Any future stable is for any new structure on the property, not for an existing one.
I'll clarify. Love horses, love the area.
Right.
I've gone past that property for many years and saw horses out there. I just want to clarify that one document said one thing. I wanted to see, make sure that. Thank you.
And that was one of the reasons that we decided just to come back and do it now, because everyone remembers, and if you come back a decade later, it's like, what really happened at that time?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee Mary Aye. Trustee Garrett?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers? Aye. Trustee Sweet? Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 17-012, an ordinance granting a map amendment rezoning from an R2A single-family residential to A2 rural residential, chapter 228-503, and attachment 1, table 1B, site structure, bulk requirements for residential districts of the code of the village of Homer Glen. And we do this all as one because it does individually. Okay. Because it's a single. Okay. All right. So I need a motion for one, just to approve it, and then we'll go through 2 and 3.
So moved.
Trustee Costa? Second. Trustee Caprio, discussion. Actually, the discussion it's more. There's more information on the second, so.
A is just for the map amendment for the rezoning.
Okay. So all it's doing is approving it, and then we can still discuss the balance of it. So, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Chouwaki? Aye. Trustee Barry?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers? Aye. Trustee Sweet? Aye. Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Motion carries. 2, is there a motion to approve ordinance 17-013, an ordinance granting approval of variance to reduce the required minimum lot width from 300 feet to 221.85 feet in the A2 rural residential district, chapter 220-503F2 of the code of the village of Homer Glen.
So moved.
Trustee Trachey,
Second.
trustee Costa. Discussion.
Mayor, can I go back to, let's pause here for a second. The map amendment is actually, let's go back to 1, because that was just flew by. That's actually changing it,
That's the zoning change.
the zoning change. So if we approve that, we need to discuss that. Because that was the gist of the plan commissioner's issue, and you said that the main thing is in number 2, and that's not.
I didn't say that. I think the mayor was making reference to number 2.
Wait, we have to explain what it's all about in the first place.
Well, the main gist of it is in 1.
Actually, it should, I feel it should all be read at the same time so everyone understands exactly what it is.
I think we should do all of these at one time, just to, get to the point of discussion, because now we're piecemealing these, don't you think?
Right. Well, that's why I felt that it should all be one.
They were separate ordinances. If you choose to adopt them all together, first of all, you need a motion to reconsider the vote that was just taken.
Correct. Second.
Okay, well, that's been the main issue, is going from R2 to A2, and, the rezoning, and then what's happening with the issues there, and all the issues with the pole barn.
Okay, then I would suggest you make a motion to reconsider the vote that was just taken.
So that we can open it up to discussion. Okay.
Very good point. And then discuss all 3 at once. So the motion should be all 3 at once.
But then you're going to have to approve everything at once, or, I think we need to go a step back, because we're waiting for number 2. We got to step back to go to number 1, to reconsider, to keep them 3 separate, but the gist is in 1.
Yeah, the votes should be separate. You have 3 separate ordinances that you're voting on.
Right.
And you can consider the discussion for everything.
Okay.
So the first order would be a motion to reconsider.
Is there a motion to reconsider going back to number 1?
Are you making that motion? I'll second that.
Do we rescind the first?
That's what this is. So do roll call.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee Knight-Turkey?
Aye.
Trustee Varian?
Aye.
Okay, so let's go back to 1 and discuss the changing from the R2A to A2.
Okay, and we'd like to hear from the petitioners. And I think Mr. Katz you wanted to do something as a public.
Mayor, can I suggest that you read through all 3, because they all kind of tie together, and then go to the discussion, if that helps.
All right. Well, we're going to start from scratch here. The only reason we're reading all 3 at the same time is so everything makes sense. All right. So, bear with me. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 17-012, an ordinance granting a map amendment rezoning from R2A single-family residential to A2 rural residential, chapter 220, 503, and attachment 1. Table 1B, site and structure bulk requirements for residential districts in the code of the village of Homer Glen. And is there also a motion to approve number 17-013, an ordinance granting approval of the variance to reduce the required minimum lot width from 300 feet to 221.85 feet in the A2 rural residential, chapter 220, 503F, 2 of the code of the village of Glen, Homer Glen. And is there a motion to approve ordinance number 17-014, an ordinance approving a plat consolidation, all for certain real property located at 14438 and 14430 Dixon Lane, Homer Glen, Illinois. Case number HG1632 MPV Joseph Resnick. Now, it's discussion.
It's open for discussion.
Okay, now I'd like to know why you want these changes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, start there.
I just want to speak as a adjoining landowner on behalf of Joseph and his brother. Your Honor, board members, my name is George Gatzis. I live at 14459 West Gatzis Lane. I'm the adjoining landowner to Mr. Resnick. all along the north side of his property and also the west side of his property. My house is right there, and I have visual sight of this residence at all times. Well, it's not a residence, but it's going to be a residence. I've talked to all the homeowners on Dixon Lane and all the homeowners on Gatsis Lane, and everybody is for Mr. Resnick building this residential home there. And in order to build a home that he wants, he's consolidated the zoning so that he can do it under the A2 rural residential. Now, I would testify under oath. I am an attorney in the area, and I would swear that I have not seen any business doings out of there. They've been there for 4 years now, and I haven't seen anything out of there except his brother once in a while working on his own vehicles. And I'm sure that's been checked out. And I just want to testify to that. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Okay. Judge, we'll let the board go ahead and discuss this. So if you want to still start sharing.
Okay. At the February 16th Plan Commission meeting, it stated here that you wanted to change this to A2. First you said maybe because of the horse, then you said maybe chickens, but so that it's consistent with the zoning because you have 2 lots that are zoned to A2. So, and it also stated here that when you build, the petitioner has moved into, after the petitioner has moved into his new home, will he allow this movement of vehicles to persist? And you said that it will not continue.
Well, it has already halted, so there's nothing there.
Because I have talked to people on Dixon Lane and the street, on the other side of the street too, and they say there's daily deliveries going on, they're saying all kind of activity with cars coming and going all the time. So that's what that's what they tell me. They don't, people don't come to a public hearing, they don't want to be pointed out, let's put it that way.
No, I understand. And I feel that since the first 2 Plan Commission meetings, I've taken the appropriate steps to help, to try to alleviate the concerns that the board has had.
I know, because they were saying there was a dozen cars at any one time in front of your pole barn and garages.
I mean, we used the area to park cars. I mean, there was after the first Plan Commission meeting, I was asked that my brother proved that he owns those vehicles and the titles were documented. There was an inspection done the following day, I believe, and then a week later where everything was documented. I came back to the second Plan Commission meeting and I found out that I guess that wasn't good enough. So now, basically the last few weeks, we've went through the motion of clearing everything out because I want to be able to build this home.
When are you planning to build?
I mean, as soon as I can.
Okay, well.
So I'm trying to take the appropriate steps to figure that out. Starting with this, obviously, this is step 1.
Well, because it's an old frame house there that you said you wanted to knock down, so really you don't need to do a zoning change at this time to demolish that house, correct?
I mean, I don't need a zoning change to demolish it, but that's not really something that I thought about, I guess. I wanted to make sure that the zoning was correct before I went and did anything else because this was flagged when I was starting the planning process. And I guess for me, in my mind, this was step 1 for me to get the zoning structured and figured out before I could move on to start construction.
That's all I got.
I would like to make it known also too that I haven't seen any evidence or I haven't seen anybody come in and say that there's business out of there, business dealings out of there. And I think it's been checked out by Homer Township, by Homer Glen.
Jill, can you speak to that?
Yeah, we did visit the property. The cars that were on site at the time, they did show proof of title of those vehicles from Mr. Redcheck. Since that time, all the vehicles have moved. We have not heard of any payment being made for the vehicle repairs, so there's no evidence of that.
You mentioned you had made steps to address the plan commission's concerns. What are some of those steps you made?
Oh, well, for one, the cars were a concern, so I mean, the cars that my brother owns that he was storing on the property are brought back at his home, on his driveway essentially, because and that was the primary concern of the board, I believe, because that was kind of the sticking point from the first plan commission to the second. So that's kind of, it's a majority of it. I think that's a very hefty percentage.
We need to clean out the government of that trailer.
Can you get those pictures?
What was that?
Get those pictures you could show?
They're not on the PowerPoint.
And you said you were planning on building. Do you have your architectural drawings completed for that?
Correct, I submitted them to Karen.
I've also seen them.
What about the storage box that's out there? It looks like they have all this.
So one of the storage boxes has been moved. The other one takes a little bit more effort to schedule to move and a little bit of cost as well. So I'm working on that. I just couldn't get that done in time.
What are those boxes being used for?
Storage. Various equipment. There's a lawnmower in there, snowmobile too, I believe.
And nobody's living in the house?
Nobody. No. That house is not livable.
And how long have you been out there?
4 years.
That's all I have right now.
I'm just concerned about the convoluted back and forth with the whole plan commission. It's rare that a plan commission votes 5-0 against something. But I also want to just warn, not warn, but advise you that if this becomes an issue in the future of conducting a business out there, there are code infractions there.
I understand.
And our code officers will catch it and will take care of the situation as they need to do. We would hope that if this is granted, that it's a true statement in a residence and agricultural area that they plan to do.
No, it's 100%.
That's what we want, and all the neighbors want that too.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
Did letters go out to all the surrounding?
Everyone within 250 feet of his property received notice.
Did we get any?
No one has spoke during a public hearing, and no one has contacted me or Casey, the code enforcement officer, about any concerns.
How many cars are currently at the property today?
Probably not zero. I wasn't there today, but I would say zero. Maybe one, maybe.
When was the last time you were there?
I was there on Sunday.
Okay, how many cars were there on Sunday?
There was one there on Sunday.
One.
On the way here, there was one car there.
I was gonna say, I was there today, and I saw one car, and then a half semi-truck, and that was it.
And I only saw one car Sunday.
I think maybe echoing Trustee Caprio, I think the concern here is one of use, and some of the things that have been said in the past, and some of the, I think commending our plan commission and some of the members and some of the due diligence they've done on this. I think what we have to be careful about is the difference between the use and the zoning, and we're talking about zoning. But in echoing Trustee Caprio, I think this is something that we're well aware of, issues that may have been there in the past. It sounds to me like you're saying those issues are in the past. That's your intent, right? Your intent, and I just want to be clear on this, your intent is, it's usually your brother that was working on these vehicles, right? He owned the vehicles, titled the vehicles, he was the one maintaining these vehicles, not you?
Yeah, correct.
And that's not going to be the case going forward?
No, sir.
Okay. So I think the issue has been use. And I think that our code enforcement officers are going to be on top of this and monitor it. And I just hope that if this is approved, I hope you're a great member of the community, building a home and being a good neighbor, and that at some point we're not back here talking about an issue with vehicles or what may be the even the perception of some sort of business being run that would not be allowed. So I just think it's important for us to keep the use from the zoning separate. And I'm going to take you at your word that that's something in the past and that behavior is in the past. And I guess that's my thoughts.
Appreciate it.
What is the time frame for the removal of that last container, and what is the time frame for your house? Or the demolition that should be starting?
That's a great question. To be very honest with you, I have not looked into. I have the application for demolition at home. I have not looked into moving forward with that yet because I wasn't sure where this was going to go. But I have full intent to move forward with that. As soon as I can, if this gets approved. I didn't really want to, I guess, jump the gun in a sense when I didn't really know how this was going to turn out. And as far as the container goes, I mean, that's something that I will work diligently to get taken care of as soon as possible as well.
Karen, what is the risk and reward of doing R2 to A2 or BJ? Because A2, I know A2, you could you have animals, pole barns and things like that. What other things that we should be aware of? Because that would have been great to have a chart here. R2, this, A2, you can get this.
The study uses are kind of similar. I think the only one I looked at is like group homes. You can have an A2 but not in R2. Essentially, you'll be allowed agricultural uses with the A2, which you can add with the R2 zoning.
Okay. And businesses are, because it is A2, it's not a C. Any type of transactions like that are totally
That's
not
correct.
allowed.
And you do plan to have animals at some point?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Any particular?
I really want chickens, to be honest with you. Maybe some other small animals as well down the road, sheep or goats.
Just a quick follow-up. There are some other commercial uses, but they would all require a special use permit with full board approval. Things like a kennel or a commercial stable, things of that nature, but all require a special use permit. So what the planners mentioned was purely things that they could do on their own as a right.
Is there any type of concessions that we can put with this to safeguard that it doesn't go back to all hobby, we should say?
Well, if there's any concern about commercial sales, obviously the investigation, you can find him and you bring him in easy. But if he's engaging in prohibited uses on the property, the code enforcement officer can write out and go from there.
Right, and I don't care to see, half a dozen cars on the property either. So maybe we should write that in. Can that be part of it?
Well, I don't know what kind of regulations you have, restrictions in terms of cars. I mean, if these are all owned by him or a brother, I mean, there's no, I don't believe there's any restrictions on prohibitions against storing cars on property or.
There's junk cars.
Junk
Yeah, as
cars.
long as there are more used or isn't any limit on the number of cars you can have parked on their property.
So if you had, once the house is built and there's guests staying overnight?
No, but I'm saying, what junk cars?
No, junk cars.
Yeah.
Junk cars, correct. They're junk cars.
What's the definition of a junk car?
A shell,
Probably not.
something that's not running. no
It says,
wheels.
I believe the code says something about the vehicle looking to be in non-working order, so if there was no engine or no tires, things of that nature.
No doors, no fenders.
The title will give you, the title of the car will also give you some insight into that too. If it's not a clean type of car, it's salvaged for junk.
Well, salvage cars are you still can drive on the road.
Rebuilt.
Rebuilt. But it's still a salvage car, it's still marked as a salvage, and it's in the rebuilt classification. That takes a lot, that involves the state executive to go through everything and make sure it's done correctly.
Can I just go one thing? I just think it's important to, and this is what I've tried to do as I've read through this over the last several days. I think it's important for the use and the zoning, right? And those were kind of my questions when I would call staff of the use and some of the issues that may have been in the past. Right? If it wasn't for those, right? Would we have a problem with the rezoning of this property? And I wouldn't, okay? So our code enforcement has been out, has taken a look, there's been no evidence of anything prohibited. All vehicles, I think, were titled, right? Things that certainly I'm in agreement, I don't think are things I want to have in a neighbor, right? So that's issue one. I think the issues in the past warrant today. The zoning for me, no issue. And then when you talk about the zoning, the question was, if we approve A2, what would that potentially open the door up to, right? And there really isn't anything other than the sale of agricultural products produced on the premises, which is the only thing, from my understanding, that's allowed under A2 that wouldn't be allowed under residential. Everything else of any of the issues or potential businesses involving autos or anything else would be a special use permit. And any use beyond that would be a code enforcement issue like any other home and any other property in town. And so that's the way I try to do this, is through those two things of if deeming A2 from residential opens the potential of something up, then I would hesitate with a history here, but I think we have anything that would be other than produced on premises and agricultural products, they'd have to come back for us for a special use. And so I try to separate the two, and that's the way that I feel.
That's pretty much the way it is. It's us having trust in you to make sure that you don't go back to fixing the cars, because I mean, when you look at these pictures, drivers are never going to want to be looking at it all the time. There's some trucks that are just metal, there's no front end on it. And you're zoning it for agriculture. So, and the code enforcement can come on premise just to make sure that you're doing it, especially if we have any complaints.
Absolutely.
So,
Trust and verify. So I think that's what we do going forward.
So I mean, Christine?
I'm just sitting here all quiet. I did my research on you already. I absolutely 100% agree with what Brian had just said. He actually stole the words right out of his mouth. It was a trust issue. I did, like I said, I was out there today. It looks great now. I mean, minus that semi that's out there. And just like they said, the code enforcement can go out there at any time and check into it at any time. I believe you. I believe that you're going to go straight forward and build your big, beautiful house and have the other actor with your chickens. I mean, I think it's great. I would just be cautious of the business. If you do have a hobby of fixing up cars, it's a hobby. I mean, we all have hobbies, and we like to look at cars of our own homes and yards and whatnot. Just keep it clean, I guess. That's all.
John Clerk, please call the roll. Oh, that's right. We have to make a motion on one, which is approving the ordinance.
Wait. I do have one more question. There was automobile repair being done out there at one point. I hate to harp back on that, but I'm just curious.
I mean, it wasn't it was a hobby, correct? I mean,
Okay, I'm just more curious about the chemicals, things of that nature. Were they put into the soil? Where were they disposed of?
You know, I mean, we had proper
containers.
Proper containers, correct? Yeah, there was nothing. I mean, you know, granted, I said in the previous plan commission meetings that I didn't make many visits there because of my work schedule and those sort of things, but I'm quite confident that nothing like that would be happening.
I mean, my assumption is when you do build, you're going to have a soil study.
Correct. Right. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that will happen.
Just something that was in my mind.
Okay. And if that's it, I need a motion to approve ordinance number 17-012. So moved. Second?
I'll second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Sweets?
Aye.
Trustee Varian?
Aye.
Trustee Nancy
Aye.
Okay, motion carries on one. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 17-013? So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet? Trustee Knights Trachey?
Aye.
Trustee Berrian?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Motion carries. And third, is there a motion to approve ordinance number 17-014?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Berrian?
Aye.
Trustee Knights Trachey?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet?
Motion
Aye.
carries.
Is that an aye?
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries. You've got the approval. Just do what you said you're going to do. That's all you're looking for.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Just a thank you to Trustee Sweets for picking up on that and stepping us back.
Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 17-015, ordinance approving and adopting the official 2017 zoning map in the village of Homer Glen? It is understood that this adoption includes map amendments and map corrections as discovered by staff over the course of 2016.
I so move.
Trustee Caprio?
Second.
Trustee Costa? Discussion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Knights Trachey?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Berrian?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve? Is there a motion to approve Ansel, Blake, Diamond, Bush, D. Kennedy, and Caffers HDBK proposal for updating the subdivision regulations for the village of Homer Glen? It is understood that the project will not exceed the proposal cost of $15,000.
I so moved.
Trustee Sweet?
Second.
Trustee Caprio? Discussion?
We just have some clip notes for the public, Mr. Access, just $15,000.
Mike, you got that one here?
Sure. Currently, right now, our subdivision ordinance was adopted from Will County, so it's still under Will County's format and standards. We're looking to clean up and better organize the subdivision ordinance and reformat it in a way that's more resident and user-friendly. So it's a reformatting.
And they will give us a red line version of it so we know exactly
Correct.
what's being changed.
Correct.
Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet?
Aye.
Trustee Knights Trachey? Aye. Trustee Berrian?
Aye.
Motion carries. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 17-016, an ordinance accepting Evelyn's Gate North Park and certain public improvements in the public park and Evelyn's Gate North subdivision?
So moved.
Trustee Costa, second Trustee Caprio. Discussion?
I was just wondering what improvements are we, targeting right now?
We're going to fix some of the equipment that's out there, nothing major. We are going to replace the mulch that's out there with what's certified for the park. And then there's a discussion about curbs running outside of it just to keep the mulch inside, and it also needs of the lawn. Any other questions?
I'm sorry, so that we're taking this part, right? So now this is a new village of Homer Glen park. Okay.
Yes. Anything else? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Knights Trachey?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet? Aye. Trustee Berrian?
Aye.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Motion carries. Last, is there a motion to approve resolution number 17-003, a resolution authorizing the release of executive session minutes? So moved. Trustee Costa.
Second.
Trustee Trachey. Discussion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Costa?
Aye.
Trustee Rogers?
Aye.
Trustee Sweet?
Aye.
Trustee Knights Trachey?
Aye.
Trustee Caprio?
Aye.
Trustee Berrian?
Aye.
Motion carries. Workshop items. Presentation by Finance Director John Sawyers of the proposed budget for fiscal year beginning May 1st, 2017 and ending April 30th, 2018. John, all yours.
Thank you, Mayor. I know our TV isn't working back there, so I believe there's some copies of the slide presentation. In addition to that, in your packet, you got an expanded version of the budget that had all the accounting ledger sheets. But we're going to go through the PowerPoint presentation, and for fiscal 18, it's we had a couple good pieces of information that came in this week after the packet was prepared. The first being that we received acknowledgement that we're going to get the GFOA award for reporting, excellence in financial reporting. That's the 15th consecutive year for that. And even better, we got notice from the Will County Sheriff that the Sheriff's contract is going to go down by 3.9%, which is a $150,000 savings. It's currently not reflected in this budget. So those are two terrific pieces of information to start the budget out. It's a strong budget without that, even stronger now.
Right, and plus, not to interrupt you, but the deal with police was actually lower than last year in the first place, now it came in actually much lower.
Much lower. We're in a cost reimbursement type of contract, and as the staffing, the officers got a little bit younger, so they're a little bit lower down on the pay scale, and we get the savings from that. So all good news. That's pretty significant. That's the largest decrease we've ever had over the life of the contract. So I'll make a couple notes as we go on. It's not reflected in here right now, but even still, this particular budget is a balanced budget.
Can I just have a quick question? I just want to make sure I'm looking at the same thing, because I have two different things, one that was left here, one that was...
One says questions.
One's double-sided, more detail.
They're both the same.
One is 52 pages long, and the other one is 75 pages long. You want the more condensed one. That will omit the accounting ledger sheets. That becomes the budget document, but it's a little confusing to present a budget with 400 lines of data.
And one's front and back.
Yeah, what you got in front of you is one full version and a front and back version. Just make sure you get it.
So I'm with the skinny one.
Skinny.
Yes.
Always.
The format is pretty similar to last year. Not only that, we're also similar this year in that we had a lot of buildup of capital project funds, and we're going to propose spending sizable amounts of those skip on buildup. So it's very similar. We do start the budget document with a letter to the board, and a couple things relevant within that are that there are no property taxes and there are no new fees. And then on the second page of it, there's a question. We're forecasting around $480,000 of surplus from fiscal 17, ending on April 30th. That is the result of an increase in sales tax, increase in development revenues, and just carefully managing the expenditures. And we did reap some benefits from the elimination of office rents. So moving along, we do have 9 existing funds. Last year we dropped one off. If we do go forward one more page, you'll see the funds with the revenues and expenses side by side. The first 3 funds, the general fund, special event, and environment funds, those are general funds. Those are what we measure our performance on. It's important that we finish the year in the black when our reports go out to the world and for underwriting and things like that. The village has a history of finishing in the black. We have fiscal 17 is going to finish. It'll keep our streak. I don't believe the village has ever not finished in the black. The total budget, which is the total of the expenses that are requested, is going to be $26,467,453. It'll actually be $150,000 less than that because the sheriff's contract is down. as we get into it, you'll see the breakdown of what's in the revenues, what's in the expenses, and what are the new initiatives for the year. So moving along, the budgeted revenues of $13,651,000 come, 65% of them come from the general fund, which is the sales tax, income tax, development revenues, things like that. Park and recreation is 7%, that's the local motor fuel tax, developer park contributions. And the debt service fund, which is pretty sizable, is the home rule sales tax. Other funds represent the FEST and the environmental surcharge. The composition is pretty similar to the way it was in the previous year. No big change there. Expenditure it's kind of an anomaly. We built up funds for many years and we're proposing to spend them down, so you're seeing a big spike in the expenditures. It's a spend out of the fund build up. So it's a little skewed when you look at it as a pie chart, but here it is. It's skewed because there's so much capital project work in it. The general fund, we're forecasting to begin the year with about $5.4 million. The budgeted revenues of $8.8 million. Budgeted expenses of about $8.8 million, less than $150. That'll present a surplus, a projected operating surplus of around $166,000. We'll finish the year at 5.4 or an additional 155.6. That's about 8 months worth of reserve built up. Our standard operating procedure for fund accounting policy is 6-month max. So we're well beyond that. We don't get extra points from underwriting for being over that. It's just we're really fiscally strong on paper. 8-month reserve is pretty outstanding.
John, so for 1 second, is that what we were last year, 8 months?
We were over 6. We were probably under 8, we were probably 7. I think the $450,000 or $480,000 surplus combined with the stable budget expense total has gotten our reserve up, which is fine. Somewhere along the line, if it keeps going like that, the SOP2 will allow for you to siphon that off or transfer it into the parks or land acquisition or capital, things like that. So it's all good. The general fund revenue composition is primarily sales tax, state income tax, the road and bridge levy, and use tax. Those 4 numbers represent 87% of the total. This village really thrives from sales tax. Because there is also another approximately $3 million of home rule sales tax. It's its lifeline. And it's been strong. This pie chart just states the obvious that we're very reliant on sales tax. State income tax is a per capita tax. We get that based on the population and how much the state brings in. The road and bridge levy comes from the township road and bridge district's levy. We get half of that. We return it back to them for the road maintenance agreement. And then everything else, the fees and the permits and the fines and forfeitures represents 20% of the total. This is just the last 6 years of sales tax, including the current year. We had a dip in 14 where we lost the fuel distributor. The laws changed for how taxation occurs with the sale and resale of fuel. And they left the community. There was no more market advantage for them to stay in the community. They left. And obviously you can see the ladder up to the present. We made our way back to where we were. Seen some stable growth in sales tax. Income tax is pretty stable. We took a little bit of a dip in 17. What we do with the budget is we use the Illinois Municipal League's forecast for income tax. So it's a third-party projection. And for the most part, they've been fairly accurate. I missed it a little bit in 17, but it's the best we can do. I think with the market, we'll probably see an uptick in that. I hope. Major expenditures within the general fund. So we have the public safety agreement. Initially, with it presented at 4.2 million. It's actually going to be less, which is terrific. The second largest category is personnel and benefits. That's payroll, payroll taxes, and insurance for all of the departments. The building department, admin, engineering, planning and zoning, finance, EMA, elected officials. It's a lot. The third category is the road and bridge, is the public works maintenance agreement, the road maintenance agreement. And then the fourth, the sales tax incentive agreements. And I wanted to point out one of our incentive agreements with Homertown Square will expire after this fiscal year. So going forward, we'll see about $135,000 windfall from that. It was a 15-year agreement, and the last payment is December 31st of 17. So more good news for the budget going forward. The other items are repetitive. They're similar to what they were in previous years. Contingency is up from it was 190,000 last year. It's projected at 200. We didn't use it. I view contingency as more as a kind of a hedge against revenues. So I don't really look to spend contingencies until the last quarter of the year, as long as revenues are in excess of the forecast. It's just a safety valve. So this is an interesting chart because 46 cents of every dollar goes for the sheriff contract. 13 cents of every dollar spent goes for the road maintenance. And everything else, all those departments that I mentioned, gets funded with the 41 cents left. So I find that to be, what law enforcement is the lifeline to safe communities, so it is the lion's share of our expenses. Major initiatives for a lot of the budget is just trended information, so I just wanted to point out the initiatives, the non-recurring items. We talked about the first item. The second item is upgrade of our computer server. We're out of storage. We talked about upgrading our efficiencies with processing and things like that, and it all folds in together. We budgeted $13,250 for strategic plan consulting services. Budgeted $20,000 for document storage management software, which also dovetails into the computer server. We budgeted to continue the economic development promotional efforts. We budgeted $7,500 carryover from last year for the large format plotter scanner that will reside in a new department, the planning and zoning department, that was previously merged and combined with the admin department. We rebudgeted another $95,000 for the underground utility location service. That was a new expenditure in the general fund last year. We came in under 95, but we just rebudgeted that amount. We budgeted $8,000 for 5 AEDs, 1 at the admin building and 4 for the sheriff's department. We budgeted to restore a vacant inspector's position. It's been vacant since December of 15. I had mentioned we created that new planning and zoning department. It'll allow for better reporting. As time goes on, it'll season out. It'll be a better management tool. We once again budgeted for 4 applications of mosquito abatement, $51,000. Item 13 is the balance to complete the subdivision ordinance. You approved the $15,000 tonight. We'll get $5,000 of it done in this fiscal year, and the other 10 will get done in fiscal 18. We budgeted again for the continued commitment to staff professional development and merit pay increases. We budgeted $19,000 to replace a code enforcement pickup truck that has been nothing but problems. And we have a budget for $15,000 for annual Opticom maintenance, and as I mentioned earlier, $200,000 for general fund contingency. That is the general fund. It's strong as can be. We were able to put place setters in for all of the requests, so it was really a nice, easy process actually. Special event fund is the fest, and these numbers come from the fest committee. And at the beginning of the year, we had $62,427,000. What we do is I kind of grossed up the forecasted amount of $118,000 to include the profit sharing portion of it. So we forecast the revenues at $138,000, and the expenses on page 21 are one more page. So we did something new with the special event fund and actually the environment fund. Remember, they're both general funds, they're restricted general funds. So what we did is we allocated some staff liaison time to both of these funds. They're time-consuming to run, and they both have designated revenue, so we thought it was appropriate to assign some staff time to it. So we did assign some $19,250 of staff liaison time. We rebudgeted for the Homer Harvest Days at $10,000. Have a place setter for future community events and activities at $2,000. And then we have the Fest profit sharing, which goes to the Homer Township Camden and Road Bridge District in the amount of $20,000. So the Environment Fund, we expect to begin that year with around $58,000. The budgeted revenues are the environmental surcharge, the EDAD revenue events, the revenues from the EDAD event, and recycling income. We haven't had recycling income in 3 or 4 years, but the cost of those commodities are going up. It's really nice to see. It got as low as $40 and it's about $80 now. Once it hits $82.50, we'll start to realize income from that. And there's no reason not to think it's going to happen. So I put a place setter in there for that. It's a good sign of the economy when you see refuse picking up like that. The expenses, once again, we mentioned the staff liaison. We assigned some time to that, $19,250. I'm just going to hit the top 4 or 5 because for the most part, we rebudgeted most of this data from last year. So we have the recycling event. Every year we do one, $10,000. We have the Earth Day, Arbor Day event at $9,000. And we have some professional services at $6,000. The grand total is $59,440. I think the initiatives are covered by the expenses that I just discussed. I think they're all, it just expands on it, but the lion's share of it were those 4 or 5 items. So MFT is a special revenue fund that also kind of has a capital project nature to it because we've built up so much money over time. It's going to begin the year with around $3.5 million. The revenues in the MFT fund are the MFT tax, which is a per capita revenue. So it's not based on consumption. At our fuel stations, it's based on how much the state collects, and it's divvied back up based on population. So, and actually we've seen a decline in that over the years because cars get better fuel economy, and it's just not a growing number. We do get a supplement because we're considered a high growth community, so we get $27,000 for that. And we build up so much money, we have some sizable interest income. So the total revenues are $662,000. And then the expenditures are, we have some phase 1 engineering for 151st and Cedar to 151st and Bell. We have some funding for the road maintenance agreement. The street light, electricity, and maintenance that we picked up recently is $88,000. Traffic signal maintenance, which is relatively new also, $10,000. We tagged the MFT fund for phase 1 improvements at Heritage Park. Those we checked with the engineer. We tagged it for the MFT portion, which is good. There's 3 different funding sources for the Heritage Park.
And so just so the board's clear on that, that would be the circular drive aisle, the west parking lot, and the walking path around the edge of the park. That would be that funding source.
So we're looking to spend down some of this build-up that it's been building up for years and years. So it's nice to see it go to something so community friendly, actually. So the grand total expenditures are $3.3 million. Park and Rec evolved nicely last year. We did a lot. We imposed the local motor fuel tax. Currently, we expect to start the year with around $2.8 million. The revenues in the Park and Rec Fund come from the local motor fuel tax and park developers, and we also include some of the reimbursements that we get on the CMAQ grant bike trail projects. So that total is $963,300 for revenues. The budgeted expenses or the initiatives, we did something a little bit different. We split off with the expansion of the park facilities maintenance. We created a separate department. So now the park fund will have two different departments as opposed to just one. That also will be, over time, will be a better management tool. We budgeted $627,000 for the balance of Phase 1 Heritage Park improvements. So we were, some of it's going to come out of the bond fund, which is the drainage stuff. And then MFD is going to be the roads. This is the balance.
It's the Village Green portion, would be the center.
We rebudgeted for the Goodings Grove Park improvements, $475,000. That is a partially funded, grant-funded project. We budgeted $10,000 for an initiative. Sean had applied for a Green Regions grant to assist with the CMAQ Goodings Grove Bike Trail extension. We also budgeted $88,400 for construction costs of the Goodings Grove Bike extension. We budgeted $65,000 for bike trail maintenance, that's seal coating and some, and actually some significant repairs. And under the facilities portion, we budgeted for a brush cutter and backhoe. So most of the equipment was purchased last year, and this year just a little bit of touch-up. I kind of talked about the revenue already. And we touched on that. This is just a picture of the Goodings Grove Bike Trail extension. Okay, debt service actually should really be called the Home Rule Sales Tax Bond Fund, because that's all it really is. It takes in money from home rule sales tax and interest income, and it pays the annual bond and interest payment, which is about $2 million per year. The last bond payment is due December 1st, 2022. We expect to begin the year with 1.9 million, or close to 2 million. The home rule sales tax and the interest income, because it's a sizable amount in the fund balance, is around 2.6 million. Our debt service is close to 2, so we expect to finish the year at 2.5. So you can see there's a $500,000 to $600,000 annual surplus under this setting. So that'll just continue to grow. So it's a nice build-up. Capital Project Fund, we expect to begin the year with about $1 million. The revenue is, I believe it's just interest income. It does not have a designated revenue source. That $1 million essentially came from home rule sales tax transfers in the early days prior to the bond when we restricted that. The budgeted revenues or initiatives, we do expect to do the tornado sirens this year, so we didn't rebudget that. We budgeted for the streetlight retrofit program at $100,000. A place setter for the non-LLC subdivision improvements of $50,000. That was rebudgeted. We do have a letter of credit from one of the developers, so we budgeted $62,833 for improvements, LLC improvements. We have a place setter in there for a storage garage here on site. And we did budget for $15,000 for the Farmview lift station for inspection and maintenance, and rebudgeted the contingency at $50,000. So I think the initiatives cover the expenditures. EAB, tree replacement. This money came from a transfer from home rule sales tax via the Capital Project Fund. And it has around $346,000 to start the year. We budgeted $2,000 for investment income, and the expenses are the arborist at $8,000 and the tree replacement program at 100,000. I think you just approved that at the last meeting. It's down a little bit from the previous year, but it does represent close to 300 trees. I know we did the same thing last year. We're having a hard time getting 300 trees in the ground, but we are going to budget for it. And the bond fund, it's going to begin the year with around 14.9 million. The budgeted revenues for this particular fund are investment income, and I had just detailed the expenses on this lead sheet here. So it represents the drainage portion of the Heritage Park Phase 1 improvements. We had a lot of rollover stormwater improvement projects. It includes the professional service fee for the water transmission line, agency cost. It's per their budget. It's down a little bit. It was $110,000 the previous year. And it also includes 159th Street improvement, which includes the sewer and the water line. So that's pretty sizable, almost $7 million. And then just a place setter for some professional fees in case we have to do any review of agency information. The major initiative, the one thing I didn't cover on here is that we did so I was kind of stumbling with the revenue. The reason why the revenue is 414 is because it includes 344,000 for this EPA 319 grant. The balance is the investment income. But other than that, we discuss the initiatives and the expense. So future initiatives could be the purchase of the transmission line, actually professional fees for that. So the last page shows the operating surplus in the general fund, which is kind of our report card, is going to be 16,000 plus 150,000. Revenues at 13.6 million. Total expenditures 26.5 million. And at the end of fiscal 18, on April 30 of 18, we would expect to have $17,300,000. So we're still financially really strong and able to take on more projects after this. So it's a terrific budget. Super pleased to present it. And if you have any questions, I can answer them.
I've got one I want to ask legal counsel before I bring them up. I'm sorry. I just wanted to confer with legal counsel before I ask a question. In the CIP bond fund, we have estimated beginning balance of $14,900,000. Is that the fund that the anticipated cost to purchase the transmission line from IAW is in?
No.
Okay.
No, it's not. Actually, we were just discussing it today.
Okay.
So the concept would be to issue bonds to purchase the transmission line, to be paid from the fees, the water fees billed back to Illinois American. In addition to that, the fees that we pay to the agency to fight the claim would be included in that bond issue, and we would get reimbursed for that.
Okay, I understand that the ways years ago, we went through this whole thing. I remember the whole purpose of the bonds was to show the core system that we had the capital to purchase the transmission line when it went through the system, when it went through the courts. And the whole concept behind it is after the purchase went through, no matter how it went through, that then you would issue the revenue bonds to pay back the bond fund that we had, that we wrote the check for the water line. So technically, the way I understood it through this whole process from 5, 6 years ago, we would theoretically write a check out of the bond fund to pay for it, then turn around and issue revenue bonds to pay back that. That's the way I understood it. I just want to make sure that that this fund Because I don't, again, I want to make sure that when this transmission deal goes through, whatever happens, that someone doesn't come back and say, well, you don't even have the money allocated to buy this. At that point, legally, can we say we will issue revenue bonds to pay for it? I just want to make sure that's right. That's the way I understood when we first started this whole deal with Illinois American and the legal system.
And Mike, I can answer part of that at least, is that the court isn't going to look at, and I don't know what you were told previously, the court isn't going to look at whether or not you can afford it or whether you can buy it. The court is simply looking at the valuation portion, this is what the cost will be. So the group of you would have the decision, do you want to buy it or not? And if you can't, or if you decide not to, that's a different story than buying it. But the court isn't going to say, well, I'm not going to allow the sale to go through, or I'm not going to approve the sale of this line because you don't show me that you have the capability right now to purchase the line. That shouldn't be an issue that the court's going to decide.
I just remember in the meetings, when we talked about the bonds, and one of the big thing is we wanted to show that we had the revenues to purchase this thing. So that it didn't get in the court system and they say, well, they want to buy this for X millions of dollars, they don't have a dollar to pay for it at the time. I'm just saying what I was.
Well, we need to regroup and get you exact answers to that.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
My thought on it was a little bit different than yours. It made me think of something I missed though in the capital project bond fund. The sewer and water line are also eligible for recapture. So it's presented at 6.9 million. Theoretically, we were going to recapture that also. So, the bond fund will be flush again someday.
Because I remember again, if I go past this whole procedure, I just want to make sure, and again, I've got one more month here, and I want to make sure that what I'm looking at is what I read from some years ago with meetings. And that was that until the bond is, until we have what, 11-year call on this bond? Is it?
No, a 7-year call.
Okay, so
the 10-year bond is a 7-year call.
So if at the end of that call, if we want to pay it off, if we have the revenues, we can, correct?
Yeah, yes, good. Okay. Or you could pay off,
right, or whatever. But until then, any money coming from the 1% sales tax, all the additional funds have to stay in there, and we technically can't use that other money because that 1% sales tax is basically there for the bonds, correct? To pay for the bonds.
That's right.
Pay for the bonds.
Okay, so
59th Street.
Right, so that goes back to, and I just want to understand this right, because this, I believe, is going to come up, this isn't going to come up for approval in the next month, isn't it? Is it?
Yes. Well, SOP 2 is the funding county policy, and last year I presented something where, you can build a sweep mechanism into it. If you make a bond payment and you got next year's bond payment on deposit, do you really want to leave it there?
Right.
So, there are mechanisms to access those funds, but we do not currently have that in place.
Okay.
So it is what you say it is.
Okay, so just my final point, and I apologize, I just want to make sure this is clear, because we have some new board members here that were not in that process 5-6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So the money that's in that fund, the overage, it's going to be at the end of next year, going to be 2.5 million. If we call and pay for the bonds, so let's say this transmission line goes through, we pay for it, we issue revenue bonds, correct? That we could.
I think the agency issues this.
The agency would.
We're a member of the agency,
right.
so it's...
That money then that we paid for would come right back to us.
Right.
Then that money can be put in your general fund to be used, right?
Or capital project.
Correct. But the money that's being taken in on 1% sales tax right now, the overage, we can't touch until we pay for the bonds. And that's how we explained it. That was a two-part of issuing these bonds, the way it was explained. We have the money there, we pay for the transmission line, but then it's turned around and we issue revenue bonds to pay us back for the money we paid out of the 1% sales tax. Now that money is freed up for us to use in the budget, but the homer sales tax money is still locked into paying for those bonds until either the call or the 2022.
You can issue an addendum to access those funds at a later date if you saw fit to do that. But there is no such addendum at the moment, so it sits in that debt service fund. to pay bonds.
And again, when all this is explained to us, we didn't have every scenario of addendums, and, you know, that's the way I understood it, that's the way, why I voted it that way, and that's why I understood how it can happen. Because at that point of issuing those bonds, I believe we did 17 million, correct?
It was 15.4, so their premium to yield 17 million.
Right, there was a push to do 25.
And without knowing what a home rule sales tax was.
Right, and then when it was explained to us this way, that, okay, you have to pay for the transmission line, the other bonds will be issued, then you get your money back, and that can be used, so that gave us our, if you want to say, comfort factor, saying that even if it costs us X million dollars for this, we're going to get the money back that will be freed up to use for the other improvements in this community. Okay, I just want to make sure, I hope everybody understands, it's with a lot of meetings and a lot of legal lines in there explaining it to us, but that's pretty much the gist of it.
And just so we're clear, we're about 20% of the agency. So whatever the value would be, so just make up a number, let's say it's 50 million, we'd be a $10 million component for that.
And a revenue bond by the group, not just for us. It's a whole group that pays into it, and then you pay the percentage of whatever the balance is.
Correct.
And as a reminder, I think you said it clearly, but we pay about $2 million for the existing bond. That'll be done in 2022. We obviously have the ability to go out and bond just based on that, let alone other revenue from the transmission line in the future. So there's multiple mechanisms that we have, but a great question, because we talked about it this morning as well, because that was one of my concerns as well. So.
Okay, thank you.
So we're going to try to bring this back as a public hearing at the next board meeting. So we'll make this budget document available in Village Hall for 10 days prior to that, before that, and then hopefully get approved at the second meeting in April.
Everyone okay? Is there any old business? Is there any new business? We had it down for an executive session, but I don't see the need for it. So I would read for a motion to adjourn. So, all in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.